stand here. Not used to this, but shalom to everyone. And thank you so much for Yachad Kollel, my dear mentor and friend, Rabbi Chaim and Rabbi Shmuel. I have to acknowledge also the presence of my dear Yedid, Rabbi Kochinsky here. Tremendous zechut to have everyone here. And I'm just going to continue a little bit on what Rabbi Chaim mentioned. You know, actually, Zohar HaKadosh asks this question: how is it that in the klalot of Bechukotai, in Parashat Bechukotai, the klalot end with a very pleasant ending, with divrei nechama, and over here with Parasha of Kitavo, the harshest words are perhaps those last words, that no one is going to have any interest in you. And Zohar HaKadosh asks this question: how is it that there is no nechama within the klalot of Parashat Kitavo? And says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says, within the hiding of Hashem, within the klalot of Kitavo, the biggest nechama is hidden within it. Because in Parashat Bechukotai, over there it says, V'halachti gam ani imachem b'chamat keri. I'm going to act with you as if I'm not there. You're in the hand of nature, as the rabbi said before. Being in the hand of nature is the biggest of the klalot. But over here in Parashat Kitavo, it says, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hit you with this makkah, with the other one, with the other, 98 of them. But each one of them is Hashem hitting. It's a father, uche'av et ben yirtzeh, a father or a mentor or a teacher that has no interest in his student, his son, or his person he's dealing with, is not going to deal with them, is not going to hit them, is not going to put them to their place. That by itself is the biggest nechama that we have, Avinu Ava Rachaman, and that in fact, says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, that's the reason that we have Chodesh, the month that we have the biggest calamities, we have the biggest tzarot, the destruction of Beit HaMikdash, Churban Beitar, all of the destructions happened in the Chodesh that we call it Chodesh Av, to represent and to present to us that this is Avinu Ava Rahman. It's a relationship that goes deeper than just seeing the surface, the calamities and the destruction, the terrible things that happened to Am Yisrael. And really that nechama is something that we need to function on. We all know that the haftarot of this week's, they start with 3 gimel de puranuta, starts with 3 terrible things that the Navi says what's going to happen within the Churban Beit HaMikdash. And then we have Shiva de Nechemta. For 7 weeks Hashem comes and comforts us. First, it's actually a beautiful Rab David Avudraham. He says the order of the Nevi'im within the 4 haftarot, the beginning ones, is the first haftara after Tisha B'Av is what? Nachamu. Shabbat Nachamu is because Nachamu Amitz, as if Hashem is telling the Nevi'im, go and comfort my people. And the Nevi'im go and do their shilichut, they do their job, and the Jews say, Hashem has left us. But Tomer Tzion Azavani Hashem Hashem Shechechani, that's the 2nd week haftara. In the 3rd week, Nevi'im come back to Hashem, and they say, the Jews they're refusing to get comforted. Aniya so'ara lo nuchama. This storm-ridden nation is not taking the comfort and the nechama. And finally Hashem himself comes into picture. He says, I am going to be there for you. Anochi hu menachemchem. And that is something that we really need to function. Because really the truth is, if you think about it, the order does not make any sense. In a regular order, we would think that we should have the Gimel de Puranuta, when we sin and Hashem punishes. Then we have to do Teshuvah, and then Hashem should come and comfort us. But really the 7 weeks of comfort of Nechama precedes the process of Teshuvah, and the Haftarah of Teshuvah is only after the 7 weeks of Nechama. And the Pshat only is because a person that doesn't know that he's basically okay, and someone out there loves him, cannot function as a normal human being, and change would be impossible. Actually, in the 60s in California, they had a beautiful law in the system of education that every single day, half an hour, all the kids had to try to say 5 different reasons why they're great. Because they realized that if a person does not recognize their greatness, like the Rav said before, they cannot change. It's impossible when you give up on yourself, when you say, you know what, it's just worthless. I'm not made for this. I can't do it. Then, when a person gives up, like Rab Chaim Vital writes in Sha'arei Kedusha, it says, Atzvut is Reshut HaSatan. When a person gives up on himself, on his growth, he is in the hand like a chomer b'yad hayotzer, like a Play-Doh in the hand of the Satan. He could do whatever he wants with you. So Hashem, with his genius, preceded with 7 weeks of nechama to show us how much he loves us, and to show us how dear we are for him, and only then he asks us to do teshuvah. Shuvu banim shuvavim erfam meshuvatam. Come back to me now that you know how much there is the love that I love you, how profound the relationship is. Now I ask you to come back. How much time do I have? Half an hour. Now, the truth of the matter is, Elul has been and is a scary thing for many of the Jews. I remember my Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal used to say that in Europe, when they announced the Rosh Chodesh Elul, there were people who fainted in the audience on Shabbat, by Hachraza, by Shabbat Mefarachin, and it was scary for them, to just contemplate the message of Elul was a scary thing. It's a daunting task to change oneself, and it's not one of the holidays that we honestly look forward to. We look forward to Sukkot and Pesach and Simchat Torah, Shavuot maybe, but Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur, it's dreadful, it's scary. And because of that, I don't want to focus today on the scary part. I want to focus on how do we, in a healthy way, in a loving way, prepare for Rosh Hashana. You all know there is a Gemara in Daf Tet Zayin in Rosh Hashana. The Gemara says on Rosh Hashana, the Mishnah says on Rosh Hashana, Kol Ba'ei Olam Ovrin Lefanav Kivnei Maron. All the people in the world, and this is not limited to the Jews, all the people in the world, they pass in front of Hashem like sheep. And then the Gemara offers 2 other explanations for Bnei Maron. One is like the soldiers, Kechayalot Bet David, like the soldiers of the army of David HaMelech, how they are evaluated by the army, by the people, high-ranking soldiers and officers in the army. So that's like Chayalot Bet David, that one by one they're evaluated by the general. And then the third one is Kemalot Ben Choron. That means when you go up the mountain, there's a narrow path going up, and one at a time, people in a line, they have to go up. So the surface understanding of the Gemara is that it's 3 different things that are saying the same. They're saying it's one by one, like sheep, that you have a enclosure of sheep, and you open the door, one by one they run out, and you count them. So that's one by one. The soldiers are one by one, and the people hiking up the mountain are one by one. So why do we have 3? Let the Gemara just say, you are judged by Hashem one by one. And He has the capability and capacity to do everyone based on what He is. So it's hard to understand the Gemara. So Rabbi Yitzchak Peterburger, Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, a Talmud of Rabbi Israel Salanter, he says they're not really saying 3 things that are the same. There are 3 different things, and each one of them represents one of the ways that a person could merit a good judgment. The first one, when you open the door for the sheep to come out, which one comes out first? The one that's stronger, pushes his way through, and it comes. So that represents tzaddikim gemurim, people who are righteous, fully righteous, and they are zoche bedin because of their power, their spiritual power that they maintain. The second one is not really a way that we could even understand. It's just a way that Hashem does things. And that is the question of Moshe Rabbeinu from Hashem. When Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem, Hodi'eni na derachecha, let me know, Hashem, why is it that the righteous people, Sadiq v'ralo, v'rasha v'tovlo, they're righteous people who suffer, they're wicked people who prosper. I don't understand what goes on here. And at least according to one understanding in the Gemara says that Hashem didn't answer him. He said, Lo yir'ani adam v'chai. You're not going to know it. As long as you're alive, you're not going to fathom and understand my deeper ways. The bigger picture, you're not going to see. So that's another way that some people, they really are not this, they're undeserving, at least to our view. And Hashem gives them a good year because of the deeper chashbonot and calculations and considerations that Hashem has. So that's also not really so much for us. The first one is not so much for us because, who could say Zachiti Atzmi? Who could say that I'm really righteous? David HaMelech, when he contemplated the Mishpat of Hashem, he says, Samar mipachtecha besari umimishpatecha yareti. I get goosebumps, I'm scared of your Mishpat. It says, Al tavi b'mishpat et avdecha ki lo yistak lefanecha kol chai. Hashem, please do not judge me, because if you really want to use judgment, there is no one that could come out with a straight head. So therefore, it's hard. The first one, to say that we are Sadikim Gemurim, it's hard. To say we're one of those that Hashem gives them Chanina, Verichamti et asher arachem, that we don't know either. The third one is what I want to focus today on. The third one is the people who go up the mountain one at a time. So who gets to be the first one that's going up? There's no pushing and shoving by people who use their intellect, right? It's the first come, first served. If you come earlier, if you prepare yourself, then you have a chance to be in the front. And that, says Rabbi Yachad Kollel, that's the sod of Rosh Hashana that the Gemara is revealing to us, that applies to everyone. It's shaveh l'chol nefesh. If you prepare yourself for Rosh Hashana and you come to the day of Rosh Hashana prepared, you don't jump into Rosh Hashana, then you have a chance of maybe being zoche bedin. And says Rabbi Yachad Kollel, that by itself, that preparation shows a relationship with Hashem, shows that you love Hashem, and you care about your relationship enough that you're preparing for it. So today I want to discuss with you some of the famous ideas that were mentioned by the great Rabbi Israel Salanter, Rabbi Chaim Shmulevitz, and others, that they offered some ways and some ideas for us to be zoche bedin. So the first and foremost is the famous thing of Rabbi Israel Salanter. Rabbi Israel Salanter used to say that one of the best guarantees for having a good Rosh Hashanah is to be a part of a kehillah that they cannot live without you. If you are a part of other people's life, if you are meaningful to other people's lives, then whenever Hashem is judging you, aside from what you mean to yourself, He has to also take in consideration what you mean to others. He has to be fair to them also if He wants to kill you. If you're not going to be there next year, or chas v'shalom, Ramban says, life, chaim and metim, sefer chaim and sefer, it's not only by life and death. It could mean sickness, it could mean, chas v'shalom and yud, it could mean prospering and being healthy and so on and so forth. All of those things are combined within the Mishpat of Hashem. So says Rabbi Israel Salanter, if you are meaningful to others, even though that you might not merit on your own merits a good year, Hashem says, look, they don't deserve to lose him, so I'm going to keep this individual only for the other ones. And the bigger the community is that's benefiting from you, the bigger chance you have to merit a good year because of others. It's actually a very interesting, humorous story about the Tzaddik of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Aryeh Levin. One time they were trying to sell to him life insurance, and you're hit by all kinds of interesting people. I was just hit by a few missionaries, He should have been there. But he was hit by some life insurance people, and they were trying to push to sell him life insurance. He said, I'm not interested. And they pushed and pushed. He said, I'm not buying life insurance. So they said, why? He said, look, I'll explain to you why. You know, every year Hashem opens my pamphlet of what I did, and I said, Aryeh, he doesn't deserve to live. But then as they're about to stamp me for a bad year, a malach comes and says, but you know, Rabbanit Chana, his wife is a tzaddiket. Look at what she does. She's an unbelievable person, and she cannot function without Rab Aryeh. So every year, they give me a good judgment, a good stamp, only because of my wife, because she needs me. And if I'm not there to provide for her, she can't live. I'm the breadwinner of the family. So now, what's going to happen if I buy this life insurance? This year, they're going to open my thing, and they're going to say, well, he doesn't deserve, but his wife, she's a tzaddiket, and we're going to ride him for life because of his wife. So as they're going to stamp me with the stamp of Chaim Tovim, another malach comes and says, you can't do that. He has life insurance. Doesn't really matter. If you kill him, also, you know, the insurance pays for it. So I can't buy life insurance. That's one of the humorous messages, and it shows really the humility of this man. He really meant it. He wasn't joking. He really looked at himself as a person that didn't deserve. I'm not saying that you should learn halacha l'maaseh, Harvadia and others, Rav Moshe Feinstein, many other people, they have teshuvot on this, that really it is a worthwhile thing to have life insurance, and ask Rabbi Levi Chaim for your practical what you're going to do. But this is something that is shows you that a person that is meaningful to other people, and he's prepared because he has made himself a part of a bigger community, he merits other people's life as well. And this preparation that we do for Rosh Hashana, aside from being a part of other people's lives, the preparation itself is something extraordinarily important. Once one of the students of Rabbi Salanter asked him, so when do you start preparing for Rosh Hashana? So we would say, we would proudly say, us the Sfaradim, we start from Rosh Chodesh Elul. Not like the Ashkenazim. Rabbi Salanter said, I start right after the Neilah. Right after Yom Kippur, I start for next year preparing for it. Because it's something that really takes a lot of mindfulness and a lot of preparation, how you go about changing your attitude towards life. And one of those things, in fact, is mentioned by Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. He says, humility and anava is a key to merit a good year. Because a person that's down to earth, and he does not shine his perfect moments and his mitzvot, what he has to offer to the world, he doesn't shine it to everyone. Hashem also covers, when he covers his positives, Hashem then is going to be willing to cover his negatives. In fact, there is a halacha in Negaim, when a house has leprosy, and it's a bait afel, it's a dark house, that in a natural light you cannot see the leprosy well, the halacha is that that's tahor. You don't check it. You don't have to bring outside light to shine light on the leprosy. And says Reb Chaim that if a person's house, inner house, is also dark, meaning to say that he doesn't shine his glorious moments and his mitzvot and his maasim tovim to the world, when it comes to his leprosy also, Hashem says, it's a dark house. We'll let it go. It's tahor. And you really see this from a marsha, maybe in Masechet Rosh Hashana, right over there as well. On that Mishnah, you see the only official holiday that we have that's in the beginning of the month is Rosh Hashana. All the other real holidays, the Gemara says in Sukkah that Levana, the moon, represents Klal Yisrael, represents the Jews. Therefore, a lunar eclipse is not a good sign for us, the Gemara says. Right? And therefore, if you look at all the holidays, they are all the way when the moon is complete. When is Pesach? It's full moon. When is Sukkot? 15. Where is Tu B'Shvat? Gemara says Tu B'Av, which Gemara says is the best of the Yamim Tovim. Tu B'Shvat is the 15th. Tu B'Av is Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av. Both of them are in 15. And Shavuot it doesn't even really have, so it was a different story. It doesn't have a date in the Chumash. It's the 50th day, which is the completion of 7 cycles, which is a different story. But all the other Yamim Tovim, they're in when the moon is full. The only one that's actually, the Gemara learns it from here. The Pasuk says, B'keseh le'yom chagenu, when the moon is covered, is Rosh Hashana. What's the significance of this? The significance is because we represent the light of Hashem in this world. And that's why we're moon, not the sun. We represent that human being has nothing of his own to offer. We are just projecting the light of Hashem in the world. And when is the best time to merit a good year, a good judgment to be written for another year to live? When you say to Hashem, I have nothing of my own to offer to the world. All I am is a dark planet that projects your light to the universe. And bizchut of that, in the merit of that, Hashem gives us a new year. That's, the Gemara says, Kol hashana sherasha b'tchilata mitasheret b'sofa. Every year that's, as they say, Nabach is down all the way, as nothing in the beginning, becomes Ashir at the end. It means any year that Jews, they recognize, they come to this recognition, a deeper understanding that we really don't have anything to offer to the world, that humility and anava brings about a wonderful year. So that's really the second thing that a person could exercise and practice. Again, as we said, after Ne'ilah, we have to start with this. The third one is the Gemara. The Gemara says, every person that judges others favorably, dan lekaf zechut, when Hashem is judging him, He's going to also judge him lekaf zechut. Now I ask you, what does it mean, judging someone lekaf zechut? How do we translate kaf zechut? Giving people the benefit of the doubt. That means if you see someone is walking in McDonald's, don't think that he's going to eat a sandwich. You should think that he's going to use the facilities, or maybe get a cup of water, a napkin, or anything else. That's the concept of giving people the benefit of the doubt. Well, this poses a very hard question on the whole thing of the Gemara, because the Gemara says if you do that, then Hashem is going to judge you lekaf zechut. But the problem is, Hashem has no doubts. Hashem knows why he's going into McDonald's. If he's going to eat the sandwich, Hashem knows it. It's not that Hashem is going to cover his eyes. How does Hashem give someone the benefit of the doubt? I once heard from one of my mentors in Silver Spring, should live and be well. He said the pshat is that after post Chet Adam HaRishon, everything in the creation is mixed up. It's Tov and Ra. Adam HaRishon and Chava, they ate from Etz Hada'at Tov Vara. And what that did was that everything in the creation now became a mixture of good and bad. So whenever we do things, there are mixtures. And the Rambam says that the reason Hashem made so many mitzvot, Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu zakot et Yisrael lefichach hirba lahem Torah u'mitzvot, is because if during your lifetime you do one act that's fully good, that's good enough for you to get to Olam Haba. It's so hard to have something that has nothing of bad in it. It's purely good. Often we have, a lot of ulterior motives, because we do a mitzvah better a little bit because someone else is looking, or because we want good parnasa, or this. There are ulterior motives. It's not 100% lishma. And vice versa also is true. Sometimes people do averah and they do a negative thing and they regret it. Their inner voice is, I was not strong enough to withstand the nisayon. So says the Gemara, it all depends on what you focus on. What you have in front of you is a mixture of good and bad. Always is true. People are good and they have some bad mixed in within their good. And even their bad has some good mixed in with it too. So the question is, what are we going to focus on? Are we going to focus on the good of the people, or are we going to focus on the bad of people? David HaMelech says, when you go to Yerushalayim, Ur'eh betuv Yerushalayim, even Yerushalayim Karta D'Shufraya has something bad in it. But when you go there, focus on the good. Focus on the good. You know, the Gemara says in Sukkah, Daf Nun Chet, the Gemara says there are 7 names for Yetzer Hara. One of them is very unassuming. You know, one of the names of Yetzer Hara is Zevuv, a fly. What's with Yetzer Hara and a fly? And actually the Gemara in Brachot says that how did Isha Shunamid know that Eliyahu HaNavi Elisha is a tzaddik? Because he saw there's no fly that goes in his proximity. Therefore he knew because Yetzer Hara is Zevuv. So what's about Zevuv? You release a little fly in a spectacularly clean mansion, and there's one little speck of dirt. It's going to straight go and sit on that dirt. Leaves all the good and sticks to the dirt. Chazal are trying to tell us, La'anu Dati, that this is the power of Yetzer Hara. He pushes you to focus on people's negativities, on people's shortcomings, on people's flaws. Leave all the good and stick to the bad. And if you want to be godly, you have to stop doing that. You know, there is a fascinating pasuk in Iyov, in Perek Lamed Gimel, Pasuk Chaf Gimel. There, Iyov is describing how Hashem judges a person. And he says, if there are 1,000 malachim speaking about a fellow in the judgment, 999 of them, they're saying negativity. He said, this guy has nothing to offer to the world. And there is one of them, 1 out of 1,000, that says, I've got something good to say about him. Hashem says, Peda'ehu miredet shachat matzati kofer. Hashem says, don't let him go down to the pit. I found enough to redeem him. And the Gemara goes weiter, the Gemara goes more. It says, even within that one malach out of 1,000, if 999 parts out of 1,000 of that malach has nothing good to say about this guy, and 1/1000th of 1 in 1,000 malachim has something good to say, Hashem says, Peda'ehu matzati kofer. Hashem focuses on the positive. Hashem focuses on the good in the people. And honestly, how many times we are not like, we are exactly the opposite. When people have 999 portions of good, and they have one little bad, and we say, but he has this, but he has that, but he did this. We focus on the negativity. That's listening to the Satan. That's listening to the Zevuv. If you want to listen to Hashem, you have to say, Peda'ehu miredet shachad matzati kofer. Focus on the good. You know, Viktor Frankl is one of the probably most famous psychotherapists that was a survivor of Auschwitz, the Holocaust survivor, and he writes beautiful things. One of the fascinating things that he says is that a person's life is not defined by what happens to him in his lifetime. Rather, it is defined by how he reacts to those things that happen to him in his life. And his reaction depends solely and totally on how he views those happenings in his life. In other words, you could say, I'm in Auschwitz, that's the end of my life. This is the Gehinnom of my life. Or you could say, this is an opportunity that Hashem has put in front of me to tap into my heroic powers and become a hero and change myself and change the people forever, which he did. If we focus on good, we could even find good in Auschwitz and Matazan. And that is godliness. When we are able, we train ourselves to look in the good within people. Don't focus on the bad. And that perhaps is the pshat when Hashem judges us lekaf zachut. That means everything we do has a kaf chova and kaf zachut, has a side that's negative and has a side that's positive. Hashem chooses to look at the positive only if we choose to look at other people's positive side. Okay, maybe his intentions were not 100%. The Gemara says in Brachot, a person that's a guest should not say, well, whatever the host did for himself. Look, he has 8 kids, and okay, so I'm only one person. Anyways, he would have cooked so much. Should say exactly the opposite. Kol ma she'asa ba'al habayit, everything that he did it for me. But the Gemara is telling us to be a fool? No. The Gemara is telling us, do not be a negative person. Focus on the good that could be said, and you'll be a better person. You'll live a better life. And when it comes to the judgment, then Hashem says, well, he didn't do the mitzvah because of himself. He did it because of me, just like the Baal Habayit. If we focus on people's positivities, then Hashem, in return, focuses on our good. And that's the real meaning of Hashem judging the kaf zechut. So another point that's very important to contemplate is the midah of rachmanut, because that also the Gemara says. Kol hamerachem ala beriot merachamin alav min hashamayim. This is number 4. Every person that has rachmanut, Hashem also judges him with rachmanut. Now, I ask you, what does rachmanut mean? You know what rachmanut means? Rachmanut does not mean that when someone has saved my life, now when he needs to be saved, I'm going to save him. Rachmanut means when someone is undeserving, when someone does not deserve it, and I go out of my way and I have compassion on them, that's rachmanut. Everyone knows the famous midrash that when Hashem wanted to destroy Klal Yisrael, he led the patriarchs and others to come and be melamed zechut, to try to save Am Yisrael. So Chazal say, Avraham Avinu came and said, Hashem, these are my children. I passed 10 of your tests and I didn't even think twice. You're not going to have rachmanut on them because of me? Hashem said, no. Yitzchak came and said, Akedah, I was willing to be killed without thinking twice. Yaakov, 12 Shvatim, nothing worked. Moshe Rabbeinu came and said, I did the 10 Makot and the Ma'avar Hayam, and 40 years I was sovel, I tolerated them and I did this. Gave the Torah? No. Rachel Imenu came and he said, I have nothing of the above, none of the above. N.A., not applicable. I just have a story to say. I loved Yaakov. Yaakov loved me. We wanted to get married. And we knew that my father was a crook. And he was going to attempt to change and switch my sister for me. So we made a whole system that should not work. And he, in fact, indeed, he did that. He switched Leah for me. And I saw that she's going to be humiliated and she's going to have embarrassment forever. And I said, it's not worth it. I'm going to have compassion on the feelings of my sister. I gave up for all. I knew I was never going to marry Yaakov anymore. That was the end of it. To an undeserving sister, I had rachmanut. Can't you have rachmanut on my undeserving kids? And that's the pasuk in Yirmiyahu that says, Kol barama nishma nehi bechit hamrurim, the voice of Rachel Imenu that echoes in heavens. And because of that, Hashem says, Shavu banim ligvulam. It says, Min'i kolech mi bechi, stop crying. Rachel, because of you, they're going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. They're going to have a acharit. They're not going to be destroyed. The midah of compassion is something extraordinarily important. To let go of little things and have compassion on people, even though that they're not deserving. You know, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz was a very compassionate and emotional person. Aside from the genius of a man that he was extraordinarily emotional, and he used to cry whenever he passed by one of the sites in Eretz Yisrael. I'm not going to have you guess because no one is going to get it. It was not Kotel HaMa'aravi. It was none of those. It was the Masevet Yad Avshalom. Yad Avshalom is a monument built by Avshalom himself for him to be remembered, and still there. Now, Avshalom was not a tzaddik. He, in fact, was a tremendous rasha. He was a very wicked person. So why did Reb Chaim cry when he passed by there? He was asked by his students, and he said the following. He said, look, Avshalom was a rebellious son. He rebelled against David HaMelech, and he wanted nothing less than the head of David HaMelech chopped off. And he was this close to it. He took his palace, he took his wives, and he was about to kill him. And David HaMelech had to run for his life with humiliation, with bizyonot. And then when the war was there, when they actually waged war against each other, David HaMelech warned his generals not to kill Avshalom if they find him. But Yoav ben Surya, when he found Avshalom hanging from his hair, he stabbed him and he killed him. And someone came running to David HaMelech, giving him the good news. And when David heard this, he started bitterly crying and screaming. He said, Beni Avshalom, Avshalom beni beni, mi yiten muti tachtecha Avshalom beni beni. He says, I wish I would have been killed instead of you, my son Avshalom. Chazal tell us that with the 7 times they mentioned the name of Avshalom in that pasuk, he was able to bring him up actually from the 7 levels of Gehenna to a normal place. But what he said was, look at the compassion of a father for the son. Another righteous son. This was a rebellious son. So said Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, whenever I pass by this, I put my head to heaven. I say, Hashem, we are those rebellious sons. Can't you act like David HaMelech? Can't you have Rahmanut and compassion on us? And that's really what triggers Hashem's Rahmanut towards the people, when they are able to have compassion on each other. When one on another could have Rahmanut and compassion, that's what triggers the Chesed and the Rahmanut of Hashem. And the 5th one that I wanted to mention to you, last but not least, is another peculiar Gemara. The Gemara says, Hashem declared, Halavai oti azavu v'torati shamaru. Hashem says, I wish that the Jews would leave me, but would keep my Torah. You know, the Reform and Conservative, they do the other way. They leave the Torah and they say, we love Hashem. Well, after 200 years, the records is in. Now you could see what happens when you take Hashem and you leave the Torah. Hashem says, no. Do the reverse. If you want to leave me, okay. But never, ever leave my Torah. Because if you stick yourself to the Torah, Hamma'or shebah machziro lemutav. The light of the Torah brings the person back. In fact, there is a very peculiar Gemara in Baba Batra Daf Yudalet. The Gemara says when Moshe Rabbeinu went to get the Torah, so the luchot were 6 tefachim high, right? Actually, the pictures are misleading, it's wrong. It's from the statue that's by the church in Europe over there. That's how they took the video, and people think their statues are rectangular and round on the top. They were actually square, 6 tefachim to 6 tefachim, each one of the luchot. So the Gemara says 2 of the 6 Moshe Rabbeinu was holding. 2 of the 6 Hashem was holding, and the middle 2 was the goof of the luchot. So what's the Gemara saying? The Gemara is saying what? They were pulling who's going to be stronger? What the Gemara is saying is, Hashem asks us in the Torah, and this is a pasuk every Jew should know by heart. One time in the Chumash, Hashem says, I'm going to tell you what I want from you. Simple and pashut. Ve'ata Yisrael ma Hashem Elokecha shoel mimach. What does God want from us? Ki'im le'yirat Hashem u'la'ava oto la'lechet b'chol derachav v'lishmor kol mitzvotav u'ldovka bo. Hashem says 5 things. I want you to keep my mitzvot basically and go in my path, emulate my ways, and the pinnacle of it, what I want you to get to through all of the 4 mentioned above, is u'ldovka bo. Stick to Hashem. Attach yourself to me, Hashem says. And the Gemara asks in a different place, in a different context, the Gemara says, how can you stick to Hashem? Hashem is esh ochlahu elkana. Hashem is fire. We can't tolerate that. And I think this Gemara is the answer to it. Hashem says, my Torah is something that's attached to me. I've given, the Gemara says in Shabbat Kuf Lamed Aleph, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, which is the opening comment of the Luchot. Anochi, first of all, you should know Anochi and Ani, they both mean me, right? What's the difference? Everyone knows that there's no synonymous, they're not synonyms in Lashon HaKodesh. Every word has a very specific meaning. So what's the difference between Anochi and Ani? Anyone? Ani means me in relationship with you, with others, with the world, with my co-workers, with my wife, kids, other people, outside elements. Anochi means Hashem in and of himself, the essence of me. And Hashem says, this is my essence. The Gemara in Shabbat says, Anochi stands for Ana Nafshai Katvit Yavit. I am writing my essence and I'm handing it over to you. Hashem says the only way you could really have a relationship with me, our contract is this book over here. If you want the contract to exist and to continue, you have to hold very tight to those two tefachim that you could have. Because the only way you attach yourself to me is if you attach yourself to Torah. That's why it's called Etz Chaim Hil Machazikim Ba. The only way we ask for Chaim on Rosh Hashana. Chaim in physics, how do you teach? How do you explain life? We are alive. A plant also is alive, right? In physics, the definition is anything that grows is alive. So if we are asking for life, we're asking to grow. And growth is in the way that Hashem wants us to grow. That's attachment with the Torah. If we want the renewal of the contract, Hashem says, hold tight to that which I asked you, which is the essence of me. I've given it to you, don't let go of it. And that perhaps the acceptance of that, even if we haven't started yet, just accept that Hashem, I'm going to do something more for the Torah, to perpetuate the words of your Torah in the world, to support it, to learn it, to teach it, to be a part of it. That is the biggest key, perhaps, to meriting a good judgment on Rosh Hashana. And with that, I want to hope that we should have a year full of bracha and atzlacha, chaim tovim, and Eretz Hashem, this Mossad HaTorah, this beautiful organization should grow l'shem ultiferet, to be marbitz Torah le'alafim urvavot Eretz Hashem. And thank you for listening.